Mi naitwa Musa Ingosi and I believe I was born in Kitale.
Kwa majina naitwa Paul Mwangi na nilikuja huku kwa matatu kutoka National Youth Service.
It was in the hardship of life on the streets that the paths of these two young men crossed. Since 1997, they have formed a bond tighter than brotherhood that stands strong years after that fateful meeting. They are the face of the NYS project initiated by the Narc government that had planned to rid the streets of street families by giving them a second chance at life as National Youth Service recruits.
I came to the city knowing very well that maybe nitakuja kutoboa, lakini things were not easy. To some extent that I was forced to go to the street.
Huyu tulikuwa na yeye huko. Tulikuwa na yeye idara. Tulikuwa na yeye street pamoja, tukaenda huko NYS pamoja. Tukaenda hata unit moja pamoja, tukatoka tu pamoja.
Even though their stories are intertwined, each man's history is unique. They, however, termed that day that the government took them off the streets and promised to place them in the National Youth Service as a life-changing point in their life.
It's a long program, and it has a budget of about 60 million every year, because we had given them a lot of hope and expectations which were not forthcoming. We have already given up to 3 million today to the Director of National Youth Service so that we can at least start with about 300. And educating one of them to the National Youth Service is about 100,000.
Mi nilisikia one day tukiwa tu mtaani, tukiwa tuna stories zetu za kawaida, nikasikia the city council askaris na marungu wakiwa wanafukuza wazee. Wazee nasikia wajamaa wanakimbia. Nini tunataka kushikwa. Hao jamaa wanataka kutushika. Kutushika kwa nini? Hawataki vijana kwa tao, hadi tunachafua tao.
The alleys of Wakulima Market would be home to these two gentlemen for a number of years, while they roamed the streets of Nairobi during the day to ensure that they filled their bellies by nightfall. When the sun finally set, they would find refuge underneath these trucks, and there they would be safe from the cruel and unforgiving street life, at least for a few hours. In the present day, I find Musa at his home in Saika Estate. He is now a husband and a father of one. The family is living from hand to mouth, and Musa can barely make ends meet. Though he is now a professional plant operator and has some business knowledge, he has not been able to get a stable job since 2016, when his luck in the job market seems to have run out. The only family he knows is the three of them as they are now, and when asked about where he comes from, he literally cannot tell who he is or where his roots are.
I grew up in Kitale. I found myself living with people who are not my parents. And when I asked them, Mimi nani, they told me that I was not their biological son. Sasa from there, the same people, when you walikuwa wananiambia I'm not their biological son, but mbaya pia wakaja wakakufa. They died, both of them, mzee na mke wake. Then from there, that's when the people who came after, kwa sababu tulikuwa tunaishi na wao, the people who came after to cater for watoto wake kwa huyo mzee ambaye amekufa, never wanted to recognize me as one of their own, because I was very bright and I was unique to them. So when I saw some mistreatment, ndio mimi nikawaondokea.
It is only later in life that he came to find out why there was such negativity surrounding him. His mother had borne him out of wedlock and with a man who was considered her blood.
A word that means abomination. Nilizaliwa na watu wa mmoja. It's only my mother who saved me. Alipoambiwa enda niue, akaenda tupa kwa mama bila mfano ndani. Lakini a day will come to meet. Yes, she did a good thing.
While harsh conditions at home forced Musa to run away and begin life in the street, Paul admits that naughtiness and unexplained quest for adventure made him leave his home in Nyandarua County and get a ride to the city. But when he got here, things were not as smooth as he had imagined. With no one but the streets to welcome him, he joined Musa Ngosi in a life of adventure, pain, and hardship in the streets of Nairobi. With the number of street kids gradually increasing by the day along the alleyways or major streets in the capital, Paul, now the wiser for his travails, discourages anyone from voluntarily venturing into this life.
Mimi naweza tu advice, tafadhali kule sio kuzuri. Hakuna chakula, hakuna mahali ya kulala, yani ni kubaya. Asifikirie kitu kama hiyo. Afikirie tu kitu kingine. Okay, sana masomo siku hizi. Lakini sio mambo ya kwenda kwa street, ni mbaya. Mimi niko na experience ya venye kulikuwa wakati huo.
Na si ati kwa sababu umetaka, it is because nobody bothers about you. Hakuna mtu anajali na maisha yako, ati kuna mtu anasema ati huyu ni wetu ama kanaweza msaidia. No, I found myself in the street. I didn't have even, hata sikuwa na nguo. Nilikuwa with one piece of cloth ka t-shirt ka green na nguo za kuchukua tu za mtu za watu. Unaweza pata nguo zimeanikwa nje kwa mpo mbali, you put on, unaenda msikitini unapata kiatu iko nje, watu wameenda kuswali, unavaa moja, and that is it. Unafuata tofauti.
Musa and Paul are keen to do anything that will keep them from returning to the streets. When they got off the streets, they were young men, unwed and with no responsibilities. Now they have other mouths to feed. When the day breaks, Paul will walk to the local matatu stage where he will get work as mtu wa squad and take over the vehicle to allow the driver to rest. In between the rounds, he earns 50 shillings and waits for another turn to make some more cash to enable him put food on the table at the end of the day. When he left the NYS, he tried his hand at business but was not successful.
Nilikuwa nimeweka viatu 45 lakini hazikufaulu, nikaachana nazo. Nikaenda Kikomba, nikaweka ka hoteli yako hapo, bado kakaanguka. Nikasikia bado kuna watu walikuwa wanachukua na kuenda huko kunaitwa Iraq. Nikachukua mpaka passport 2012 lakini nikakosa ile pesa ya kuenda kule.
Musa has worked with several outlets since leaving formal training. He tells me his work has enabled him to travel to many parts of this country, from Budalangi, where he spent 4 years under the NYS building dikes in the area. He also traveled to Tiati in Baringo County, where he was part of a project to construct a dam. For months, he drove tractors in the heaps and mounds of waste at the Dandora dump site, but even that tap fell dry at the end of last year.
I've been trying to think even outside the box. Umeona hii certificate hii nilisomea hii ni ya business. Nisoma biashara. Mpaka nikatengeneza business plan. Nikaona sijui kuandikwa imekuwa ngumu. Waje nijaribu biashara. Lakini kwenda kupata hiyo biashara ndio kuimplement. Inataka kitu kama 300,000 and 50,000.
He sometimes visits Mukano Engineering Works garage, where he helps move the earth movers and sometimes delivers to the clients of this garage. It is here that he reminds himself of his ability and skills acquired at the NYS so that he doesn't lose his touch or miss an opportunity to earn that coin that will help put food on the table for his family at the end of the day.
Venye tulifunzwa kule, hatukufunzwa kitu yenye unaweza fikiria kitu kama hiyo tunaweza rudi mahali ulikuwa. So mimi huwa na expect tu siku moja maybe utapata kazi mzuri.
While they are hustling for a better tomorrow today, they say life was different back in 2003 when they were picked up by city council askaris and bundled into vans. It was a time filled with uncertainty at the Pumwani Social Hall. They were guests of the state for 4 months, and only those patient enough lived to see the day when they would travel to Gilgil to begin the rest of their lives.
Hapa ndio ilikuwa rehabilitation center. So hapa ndio tulikuwa tunalala kwa hii hall.
Wanafunzi kutoka na Nairobi University wako wanakuja and they do some counseling. Counseling tu unaita mtu mmoja mmoja, anaanza kumkanzo kumfanyia counseling kitu kama hiyo.
Venye tulikuja huku kuna watu walikuwa wanaleta manguo. So tulikuwa, unajua watu walikuwa wachafu ile wakati wa kwanza. So hapa nyuma kuna mahali tulikuwa tunaenda kuogea, kuna bathroom per day. So tulikuwa mjana tulikuwa tunakaa tu idle.
The Children's Department of the City Council of Nairobi then would provide a warm meal 3 times a day and ensure that they slept in comfort, Well-wishers had jumped in to ensure the program did not lack the basics to enable them feed and put clothes on the backs of those street children. The caretaker in charge of this facility now tells us that since then, no elaborate rehabilitation program has been replicated at the center. But this does not stop needy children from flocking into the center whenever there is a promise of a warm meal. Before they could join the NYS formally, they were taken through a vetting process. Musa and Paul say they were among the few who were fit enough and did not have drugs in their system to enable them endure the tough training at the Gilgil-based college.
Tukapelekwa Nyayo, tukakimbia mbio, usunguke malab. Kuna wale wako toboa kukimbia, kuna wale wenda lap moja, anaanguka chini, jugami imejaa kwa kichwa. Huyo anawachwa, huyo ndio wanasema huyo hakuna haja wapeleke huko. But few of us who are able to kumaliza hizo malab wakafanywa medical. Kuna wale wanapimwa, wanapatikana wako na mapresha, wako na machumbi mingi kwa mwili, sijui ni damu nini, sukari mingi, pia wakawachwa. So few of us tukawa lucky, nikawa recruited to NYS. Kwa lori mpaka Gilgil.
After the initial 9-month paramilitary training, the young men and women were taken through other courses to give them a skill to utilize. Musa loved plant maintenance work, while mechanics was Paul's speciality.
Nikapata mpaka grade 2 na tukadischargewa, tukaambiwa watatuita baadaye, lakini hakuna kutoka wakati huo hatujaipata mtu hatujaipata mtu mwenye anatuita ama kutuambia neno lolote.
The National Youth Service brought dreams of those who used to live on the streets into a reality by them becoming responsible young men. But for many whose lifeline has now become a pipe dream, they say that project should come back and help them.
Sijui ni MOU ilivunjika ama ni nini, lakini walifika mahali wakaandika message ya kwamba wao vijana walitolewa street wakaingizwa NYS. They have been at the college for so long. Wamekaa wamemaliza course but they are still there, and the government right now it has gone nowhere kwa accommodate. Vijana kama kuna masa trace kwao, apewe fare na asaidiwe arudi kwa familia yao.
Because most of them, there are very few who don't have parents, but most of them have got their parents.
Out of 300, 150 walitoboa. A large number of us wakapata namna ya kurudia their biological relatives. Sasa venye walienda, few of us tukabaki, tulibaki karibu watu 4 people, tulibaki Badalangi, wenye wange trace kwao ni wapi.
The dreams of these two young men may seem far-fetched now, but they haven't lost hope that they will one day get the opportunity to be truly independent and raise their families and give them the kind of life they could only dream of when they roamed the streets of Nairobi more than a decade ago. Musa had enrolled his wife at a local university but has since been unable to pay the fees. Paul depends on the informal turns behind the wheels of matatus to enable his family to survive. In the capital city, a group of young men dance as they watch the evening news on a big screen in downtown Nairobi. These big screens have become an unofficial meeting point for street boys in various parts of the city. They too have dreams that they hope one day will enable them to leave the streets.
Kinyesha na ranga bezi ingine inajitanga huko kidogo. Kwa hiyo mtaro uko hapo. Kucha na amia Mungu asante.
Una watu wenu, my brothers, sisters.
Tuko nao lakini wana uwezo. Kama sister yangu anategeanga huko saidi. Alikuwa anategea hapa. Sasa sijui. Budangu ule nilikuwa najua. Aliwao ni kuiba mataa ya gari. Unaona mataa ya gari? Aliwao juu tulikuja na yeye huku siku ya 27. Mother dead.
For now, they can only hope that the government revives the NYS Street Children Rehabilitation Program to not only rid the streets of these young men, but also give them hope of a better future. Some of those who joined the previous program are back on the streets. Life and its hardships has left them with few options. Leila Mohammed, NTV.